Hi, my name is Ember Kelly, and I am the Director of Religious Education here at the Fourth Universalist Society. I use she and her pronouns, and thank you so much for joining us for one of our Learning with Fourth educational videos today. So we make these videos each month. We use a curriculum called Soul Matters, and it has set themes for each month. And we actually use this curriculum to theme our education from our youngest ages all the way through our adult curriculum. And so December's theme is opening to joy. And I'm so excited to get to sit down with our senior minister for one last big video before he heads on family leave later this week. And I thought it'd be a great chance for us to get to sit down and talk about this theme of opening to joy, which is our December theme. So Schuyler, it's great to have you, first of all.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm glad to be here for this conversation. It's very relevant and important right now.
Yes, we're shooting live from our home studios where we both had to do a little troubleshooting about our microphones and our speakers and all this, because suddenly we're back doing a lot of our work from our home offices instead of in our offices at the church.
That's right. Yeah, I pulled out my microphone and my camera, which are not my computer ones normally, and lo and behold, they did not work after not using them for a number of months. And we have them kind of working. I don't think the video is as good as it usually was, but it'll do for now. So such a transition, and I think especially relevant now to be talking about joy, because so many of us are feeling disappointed. We're feeling like this isn't what the plan was, that this wasn't what we wanted for our holidays, and yet here we are back online. For me, when we first decided to go back on, it felt a bit like every time I thought about it, it was like I was waking up from a dream that, like, this can't be real, right? We're not going back online after all this, right? And then I realized that we were, and it was like, ugh. And I think a lot of us might feel that way, disappointed. And now I understand it's important and it's the right move to make, but the feelings are still real of disappointment. And so we were all anticipating so much joy. At least at Fourth U, we're going to come to all these in-person services. If we were going to come in person, it was going to feel kind of like normal for so many of us, and yet we are unable to do that. And so we have to look for joy elsewhere.
It definitely feels a little bit stronger happening during the holiday season. I know before I got on with you, it may not come as a surprise to many that I was briefly on TikTok. Someday, folks, someday, church TikTok. Not yet, but we'll get there. But someone was sharing their disappointment around the fact that they had been vaccinated, they'd actually been even boosted, and still managed to test positive. And so now they didn't have any symptoms, but now they were testing positive and not getting to go see their family for Christmas. Like that's a heavy feeling. And that's like, it's okay to feel disappointed having this hit right at the holidays like it is.
Absolutely. And I think some of the comfort that we can feel right now is that we're not alone in feeling that disappointment. Whether it's because we love our church community and miss the fact that we can't gather in person for Christmas Eve, which is truly one of the most beautiful services, I think, of the year, and or if we can't travel for family, or because we got sick and we're feeling miserable, or maybe we have a child who is suddenly newly at risk, or a parent who is sick and at risk, and we're really worried about them. And we expected to have a much more carefree experience, knowing that we're all boosted or we're all vaccinated. And now we can't. Now we have sort of the weight of all this back on us. And that can come in many different forms, but so many people are feeling that. And so I think there's at least some comfort in knowing that.
And I mean, it can very well lead us to a lot of pessimism and a lot of anger at our neighbor. We, as you use, we really pride ourselves in like putting our neighbor first, which is why we moved online, because we said, hey, this is a public health risk. We're going to take care of the public community because we're part of this wider community. But it is a time where maybe some of us are feeling a little bit jaded about that it's lasted this long, that people don't seem to be heeding the obvious conclusions that we've also reached, and it gets so hard. So, I mean, what are practices that you use to find joy in a time like this?
Well, I try not to think too deeply about what is going on with people who have prolonged this thing. It can be an emotional rabbit hole of frustration and anger and despair if you think too deeply about human nature that allows people to refuse to contribute to the solution, whether that's masking in public spaces or getting the vaccine, if you are eligible for it. That's not a place to find joy. It may be important for your growth and wisdom around what are human beings about, or what are they, what are they thinking? Why do they act like they do? And realizing that we're not rational beings, unfortunately. But joy can't really be found there, unfortunately, because the answers we find there are not going to be particularly optimistic, I think. So for me, I try to pivot from dwelling on that frustration, because that is not something that will give it to me, and recalibrate my expectations for what this holiday season is going to be. The idea of joy unfolding is a perfect holiday theme. I think, Ember, you were really wise and smart to create this theme for this month. The theme of Advent is all about expectation. It's all about unraveling and becoming, with the idea of joy at the end. Advent is the Christmas season of preparation for Christmas, for the birth of Jesus, and we're waiting and we're expecting for this beautiful thing to happen. And so in some ways it's very fitting theologically and liturgically for us to be in this position of still waiting. And we've been in this Advent season for a long time. The spirit of Advent, which is this waiting of, when are we going to get out of this? When is it going to be okay to celebrate joyfully, without fear and without burden and without hesitation? And so what we found in this Advent, we had a lot of expectations we're finally going to get the holiday that we missed last year, right? We're finally going to get to gather with families, or gather in services, or do something fun for, go to Broadway here in New York City. But we're going to have to wait a little longer. But I think we can still feel hopeful that there's still lots of joy around us that we can find, that it's just because we're waiting doesn't mean there isn't joy around us.
I think one of the things for me has been to really give myself space to realize that this is, a world-altering moment, that this is not some minor situation that I'm living through, that a global pandemic going into its second full year of being a thing, but also like the third calendar year that it's been a part of, that's not like just something that everybody always lives through. You got to give yourself a little bit of grace. And so with that has been, really intentionally letting myself find things that aren't work, that aren't expectations, that are just things that I want to do, whether that's writing a little bit more than I ever used to. I did have some embroidery. It is missing now. I need to embroider another piece because I did give it as a Christmas gift. But listening to music, we over the pandemic, we purchased a vinyl record player just because we kind of wanted a chance to listen to music in a different format than on our computers, because we were already on our computers plenty. And we've gotten to have the joy of now my youngest comes in and says, I want to listen to a record, that he loves getting to watch it spin around and see how it plays music. And I think that we can really find those opportunities for finding small joy in our lives and letting ourselves have that space in these challenging times, that we don't need to fill it with busyness, but that we can fill it with taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other and taking care of our communities. You mentioned that this idea of opening to joy is such a good theme, but we also just came off of we're filming this on the 21st. And so on Sunday, we pivoted a youth multi-generational service from in-person to online in the span of 24 hours. It went wonderfully, but the theme was about community. We didn't plan that at all. It was just, hey, like, one of our things we want to think about is community at the holidays. And it ended up being the perfect theme as we moved online. That taking care of community and finding community, finding peace in community, we can find joy in community. And I think that that's so important in this time.
I think it is. I think it is. I think the pandemic has taught us that community is not so limited as we thought it was, that community can extend beyond the norms that we were raised with. This idea of community being you have to be in the same room with people. I think that we can find resiliency in the fact that we have done this before. This is not new to us anymore. We have built tools, we have built resiliency and resources, and we may have let those drop a little bit because we've been able to go out more, some of us. And so I think there's a returning to that toolkit that we used to have, right? Of what does it mean to be perhaps more inward, to be more intentional. And by what you're saying about small things, I think one of the greatest bits of insight that I've come to is that the best things about life are small and often overlooked. And the pandemic, for all its horrors, required a lot of us to live that truth out in a new way. And we're being asked to live it out again as we view the holidays. And it's unfortunate because we don't have as much preparation, but we do have the experience. We didn't expect to have this happen, within the last few days. But we do have the experience that we can draw from and return to that space of mind where we can look around and see what is my home and what is valuable in it. If you're not traveling, or if your family isn't visiting you, or if you're having to spend your Christmas Eve with us from your computer or your phone, right? Rather than sort of the wonderful spirit that fills our building on Christmas Eve and winter solstice, which will be tonight. There is something there that we have to challenge ourselves to think creatively, I think, and we'll find beautiful things there, and it'll be a holiday I hope that we can remember.
Perfect, Schuyler. It was great to get to sit down with you one final time before you head out on what will hopefully be a joyful family leave, even if perhaps it is also impacted by the limitations of the new wave. But I hope that it's a wonderful time for you to get to spend with your family, and we look forward to having you back in March.
Thanks. I'll look forward to being back too. It'll be an odd 3 months to not be there, but I'll be thinking of everybody, and I'll be excited to see you. Hopefully in person if we're able to be back, and online for those of you who are just staying online.